Hello and welcome to the Atlanta Consortium Virtual College Fair Programming. We're really excited that you're joining us for the panel today. It's going to be the Counselor Corner. A few housekeeping announcements before we get started, and I turn it over to our host. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. That's why that Q&A button is so important. And as you know, this is just one of many sessions and programs that are happening for the students as a part of the Atlanta Consortium Virtual College Fair. We hope that you will join students and families in attending additional sessions and learning about more schools and programs. This presentation and all presentations are being recorded. You'll be able to find them at that same website where you registered, strivescan.com/Atlanta. All right, I would now like to welcome and turn it over to our host today, Jody Hester. Jody, take it away.
Great, thank you so much, Jennifer. And again, on behalf of all of our great Atlanta universities, I'd like to welcome all of you to the Counselor Corner. And we are going to spend this next 45 minutes delving into all of those burning questions as school counselors and CBOs that I know you have. My name is Jody Hester. I'm a college counselor at Woodward Academy in College Park, Georgia. For those of you who don't know where College Park, Georgia is, basically, if you've ever flown into Atlanta, it's the airport. We're right here, basically Atlanta. And again, we are thrilled to have you here this afternoon. And we recognize this is an interesting time for so many of us on both sides of the desk. We're sort of wrapping up our year with our seniors, but yet also moving ahead to think about what's coming on this fall. So I am thrilled beyond thrilled that we have our great friends in our Atlanta area colleges and universities with us this afternoon. So I'd like to ask each of our panelists to go ahead, come on screen, turn on your mics, and I'm going to ask each of them to introduce themselves, let you know the institutions they represent, the roles at those institutions, and then our fun fact for the afternoon is, what new skill or new hobby or new talent have you developed over this last year? You did not ask, but mine was, I learned to knit and I baked far more banana bread than I've ever eaten in my whole life. Who knew there were so many banana bread recipes out there? So please, and we'll go ahead and start with Scott.
Thank you, Jody. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Scott Burke, and I'm the Associate Vice President for Undergraduate Admissions and Housing at Georgia State University. We are located in downtown Atlanta. I've been in higher education now for over 23 years, mostly in admissions. I just took over the housing responsibilities a couple of years ago at Georgia State, and it's been certainly a very interesting and fun learning opportunity for me. Fun fact, a couple of them. One is I've learned how to put virtual backgrounds into all of our Zoom meetings and Teams meetings, so I've become pretty good at that, including having some fun ones like Star Wars and others. And then on a personal note, my wife and I have really become DIYers over the pandemic. We've built coffee tables, we've built end tables, we've tiled our kitchen, we've built a bar at our house. So we've really become DIYers over the course of the pandemic. It's been a lot of fun.
Okay, I'm impressed by that, Scott. And now let's hear from our friend Rick.
All right, well, Jody, thanks for having us. Thanks for hosting today. Looking forward to the conversation. Rick Clark, Georgia Tech. I'm the Director of Undergrad Admission here. Have been at Georgia Tech now for 17 years and been in this role for about 10. Georgia Tech this year went over 40,000 total students, including grads, so lots of change. And I was just walking somebody around campus earlier today who hadn't been here in a couple of years, and there's a huge construction project going on in the middle of our campus right now, and he asked what that was. And it was our student center, which was built for an undergrad population of 9,000, and we're pushing 17,000 now. So way long overdue for that. But I guess I'll go with being Scott's foil on this. Instead of like constructing things, I've really enjoyed demolishing things over the pandemic. In that I didn't ever realize how much I love throwing things away and getting rid of stuff. And I think my wife is ready for me to come back to work full time, because I just look around the house and think, we don't need that. We can get rid of that. And so I probably go to Goodwill like twice a week, and it just brings me incredible joy. So if anybody needs stuff thrown away, I will be happy to come over, load up the truck, and get rid of your stuff, man, because it just brings a huge smile to my face.
All right, thank you. And then Alex.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alex LeBlanc, and I am the Director of Recruitment at SCAD, the Savannah College of Art and Design. We do have a campus in Midtown Atlanta, but I am joining you guys from beautiful Savannah, Georgia. I have been at SCAD just over 6 years, but I've been working in higher ed since before I graduated. I was that student rep that caught the admission bug. So I've been in higher ed for over 12 years now. Over quarantine, I got to catch up on some glorious reading. I actually read over 30 books. So I read a lot. My husband and I definitely jumped on the tie-dye train though. I did it as a, once in a lifetime opportunity for him. And we ended up tie-dyeing like 4 or 5 times throughout the lockdown because there was not much else to do. So now everything we own is tie-dyed, which is really fun.
Oh my gosh. And then Amanda.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Sale, and I am Interim Executive Director of Admissions at the University of Georgia. So I have been in admissions for a while. I feel like that's kind of like asking somebody their age. So I'm going to be very vague about my answer there. I've been at UGA now for about 5 years. And at UGA, a lot of exciting things are happening. We're kind of the outlier and what makes this the Atlanta area presentation, because we're about a little over an hour outside of Atlanta. So I am also realizing that I wish I had gone first, because my activities during the pandemic are not quite as impressive as my colleagues. So I think my biggest takeaway is I'm very much like a house plant. I need water and I need sunshine. So when I was locked indoors for too long, it definitely had an impact on me. And that change of scenery and that getting outside was better for everyone involved. So I think that's the big thing I've learned over the past little bit of time.
Oh, well, wonderful. So I hope our audience can see you all are in for a treat. We have fun, wonderful people who are also seasoned and prepared to answer all of the great questions that you have as counselors. And so again, as a reminder, please go ahead and start populating those in the Q&A. As all of my students have quickly learned about me, I have lots of words and I always have 50 zillion questions. So I'm thrilled to have these great panelists here today, and I know you are. So please, I encourage you to make good use of the Q&A. And sort of as we talk about this idea of, okay, what did you do personally? What skills, hobbies did you learn during quarantine? We have to turn that and really begin to think about that through the lens of your roles as admissions officers, enrollment managers, and sort of kind of the same thing of what did you learn during this pandemic season being in the role of that admissions officer? And particularly as we're now beginning to turn our eyes towards what's going to happen in the fall for our students. So what's sort of the same thing, but kind of that takeaway through the lens of admissions and enrollment management? Who'd like to go first?
I can jump in just because I think it's fitting for what we're doing here, and that is virtual programming. I think that will not go away. At some point, of course, there will be times when it makes sense to physically go places. And for some colleges, I think that'll be a bigger part of their recruitment strategy. But certainly right now, there's a number of colleges who are on travel freezes, budget reductions, and then obviously around our state and around the country and certainly around the world, there's a lot of, resistance or reluctance to see people, and understandably, from a distance coming into the school building from a safety standpoint. So I think we're still a long way away from a total return to normal, and maybe a never return to what was, at least as far as, the distribution of virtual versus in-person visits, right? That's a good thing though, largely. I mean, one of the things I've seen, I'm sure my colleagues can also point to examples at their institutions, is the access to voices and experts. Sometimes those are faculty members who we would never be able to get on the road with us that now we're able to bring into the classroom or bring to programs like this. I think even more so, it's our current students, right, who couldn't get out of class to come to a program, who you'd never be able to take out of state or a couple hours, within your own state to a high school. But now through virtual programming, we would be able to offer that insight, perspective, and frankly, the voice that a lot of students really want to hear, high school students really want to hear anyway. So that's an easy one, I think, to take, and I'm sure my colleagues have others that are more maybe within the work itself. But I think, I hope that our counselors on the call are taking advantage of that. I know everybody's got a little bit of Zoom fatigue, and I get that. But I think as the year and now the years go on, this balance of virtual and in-person is going to be a really good thing for the access to information, the access to institutions that we had not previously seen.
Any others?
Yeah, I'll jump in next. I think it kind of goes hand in hand with my joking about needing sunshine because being locked indoors for a little too long. But with our team and with students going through the process and with counselors, I think there's an element that we need to give each other a little bit of grace, right? Because as we are navigating what pandemic looks like on top of work and on top of managing students in their senior year and them having to celebrate all of their big milestones virtually, I think a big takeaway as an admissions office is that that students aren't alone in this experience, and as high school counselors, y'all aren't alone, that we're all living it together, and that there's that element of giving each other that little bit of grace to know that this is new and different and definitely not always fun. And so what can we do to make sure that we're supporting each other through that process?
Oh, I love that. Amanda, Alex, or Scott? Thoughts?
Absolutely. So at SCAD, it has been full steam ahead for us, actually. We are reopened for tours, and it has definitely forced us to reevaluate what the on-campus visit experience looks like. So we have reopened for tours. We just had our open house event this past weekend. But like Amanda said, it has changed and it looks completely different now versus what it did pre-COVID. So for instance, our open house events went from one day on Saturday to 2 days, Friday and Saturday. So we can host just as many students and families on campus, but we can spread them out and do so safely. In terms of recruitment and reviewing students for admission, we are also in the process of reevaluating what this looks like moving forward. We're going to continue with a virtual model and hopefully reach schools in a virtual capacity, but we are very excited to get back into the classroom and the guidance office as quickly as possible. And then in terms of evaluating students for admission, I saw that this was a question. We've done test optional through fall 2022. So we have really noticed that we're spending a lot more time with students' transcripts in evaluating them for admission, looking at what classes they're taking, the rigor of their curriculum. Are they pushing themselves forward? Are they taking initiatives to participate in honors or AP dual enrollment classes? So we are putting a lot more emphasis on the transcripts than ever before.
Alex, I think you have just hit on the elephant in the room, as we now realize that we have 3 members here from the University System of Georgia. And I think that is the question of many, many counselors, certainly in Georgia, but I know we have counselors from across the country on the call right now. But what are we going to do in and around testing for this fall? And Scott, I'm going to pick on you. What do you envision is going to be happening, certainly for our public universities in Georgia, but even nationally? What do you think we're going to see?
I like how Scott convieniently.
I know, right? I was thinking that. I was like, is that a real?
That's what he's really been working on.
Yeah, so let me start locally and then I'll listen. Am I back?
You froze, but we thought that you had also been working on your miming during the pandemic, and you just like.
That's
Go
weird.
ahead, Scott.
That's
Take it
so
away.
weird. Yeah, I'll talk about the local picture and then the national picture. And the local picture looks more and more like we're going to be moving back to test score required. From all that we're hearing from our sources at the Board of Regents, it's very likely that in 2022, so for those of you that have juniors, rising seniors, it's looking more and more like we're going to be moving back to test required. While I think nationally, we're going to continue to see a trend of more and more institutions and more systems moving towards test optional, test blind, whatever institutions are doing now. But I think we're going to see more of that. And it's unfortunate that Georgia's may fall into the same category as Florida, for example, which really struggled this year under a test required environment. I know there were lots of institutions in the state of Florida that struggled with applications, while a lot of the country was seeing significant increases in freshman applications, especially those at the very selective level, which was good for a lot of us, but for those that were not, they're really struggling. I have concerns about that. What does that mean for our applicant pool next year, where we've seen the last couple of years significant applicant growth? Is this going to stunt some of the growth that we've seen at our institution? So that's very much on the forefront of my mind, and it's something that we're talking a lot about right now on our campuses. And then in 2025, we're seeing this demographic cliff that's coming. And so we've got to be prepared for that. And some of these things are making it really challenging for us in terms of some of the decisions that are being made that aren't taking some of these things into consideration over the long term.
Well, and in some ways, as I was listening to that, Scott, I sort of thought about this idea. It's sort of like this voice crying from the wilderness, that people who are doing this work, be it on the higher ed side, this side, I think we know, but it's always so interesting how there are others in the room who aren't maybe asking those right questions sometimes. And so that frustration, I think is a hard thing. And certainly sort of thinking about the landscape we've been in this season. I know as we came into this fall, big questions about, well, how are these institutions going to make these decisions and read these applications without scores? And they found a way to do that. So it's interesting. I'm just going to label that as interesting times, and we'll sort of move on. But it does raise the question. So how did it go this year so without having those scores, how did that change how you read and all of the work that you've always done? How was that sort of transcended this year without those scores?
I can go. I would say for us, 37% of our applicants did not submit test scores. So if you look at certainly a lot of like Northeastern private schools, saw double that percentage or close to double that percentage in a lot of their applicant pool. I think that was partly because the university system didn't make the decision until August. I think a lot of kids had already tested in Georgia. And then to Scott's point, because for Georgia Tech, our second largest feeder by far is Florida, and they didn't move away from it, that impacted the overall applicant pool. So that was sort of how that looked. 1 out of every 3 or so students did not submit a test. as far as how did it go with review, honestly, to us, it didn't slow us down by any means. I mean, you just didn't have a test score, and that was that. I mean, we had been continuing to put a lot less emphasis on testing anyway. Most of our students have really high testing anyway. And, I kind of thought that this was like a stool where, beforehand, maybe it had 5 legs holding weight. And some students just chose to put all the weight onto 4 legs this year. And so we did that, as Alex was describing, by looking at transcripts and rigor and course choice and all the stuff we would look at anyway. I think where counselors have such a tough job, but like an important job to take the time to explain to families in the years moving forward, because again, to Scott's point, I think we're definitely at an inflection point nationally for the number of schools staying test optional. I mean, it's hard for me to believe many go back. Some will. Those, of course, publics that don't have a choice will do what effectively they're told to. Privates, it's hard to believe many will choose with local control to pivot back. I wouldn't think. But what I think, that we're going to see, I think, coming out of this is numbers are going to fail us pretty quickly, because you're going to see the percentage of applicants with test score optional and then the admit rate and how that might vary, test optional to with tests, or the percentage of admitted students who did and didn't have testing. So for us, 21% of our admitted group did not have testing, whereas 37% of the applicants did not have testing. And if you take those two numbers, it'd be easy to say, well, you clearly penalized kids who did not have testing. I think what's more important is to look at the admitted group and say applicants who were admitted, whether they had testing or not, looked extremely similar with holistic review. And so as much as optional means optional, holistic still means holistic. In other words, weaker students on balance did not send in testing. That's really all it means. You have to look at the applications themselves, and sometimes the macro numbers fail you. And that's very nuanced. And I get that that's a challenge for counselors. And that's going to be the challenge, I think, with families and within school communities, is to help people understand where those are universities that are really putting a lot of priority on testing, and maybe that really is a thing, versus those other places where, hey, maybe it's just that the applicant pool not submitting testing, or potentially flipping it, submitting testing, were weaker in those other factors. So not simple to explain and understand, but it's important. And, it's going to take time, and it's going to take some trust. And it's going to take, I think, people being more transparent, not only with data, but with taking the time to really explain data as well.
That's going to be critical. And I just want to say a couple of things about the Q&As. First of all, Rick Clark, there is much love for you out there, for your blog and the great work you're doing. And then Scott, someone asked the question about they wanting you to speak more about those demographic shifts that you've mentioned previously, about that impending cliff coming our way in 2025. And one of the counselors wonders if you could say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, and I did just post something in the chat just to give a little bit more context. But so what's supposed to happen is, due to declining birth rates, that we will begin in 2025 to see a decline in high school graduates. So between 2025 and 2029, I think it was from Nathan Graw's data that they're projecting a 15% decline in high school graduates during that time. So there's lots of companies, organizations out there doing work to help institutions recognize and try to find other pipelines and ways to stay competitive during that time. So that's what I mean when I say we've got to be prepared for the demographic cliff, because it's coming. And while it's going to affect certain parts of the country differently than, say, it might the South, we are all going to face some sort of impact from this. And so we've got to be talking with our presidents. We've got to be talking with our enrollment management people about how we can weather that storm nationally, because lots of institutions are going to feel it, and some more so than others, depending upon where you are in the country.
This is taking me back. So I am a college counselor, but in my previous life, I worked in higher ed and did college admissions. So as we talk about shifting numbers, shifting tides, and data, I realized this landscape, some of those tenets, some of those things you could hold on to help you predict where you're going to land in terms of enrollment. Some of those yield numbers of like, oh, who's visited us? Let's kind of look at that. Yeah, we've been living through a pandemic. All of that is gone. So, we've got this May 1 deadline is coming our way. What pull out your crystal balls for us. Where do you think your institutions are going to land come May 1? What's really, tell us what's going to happen. Counselors, we want to know what's going to happen. Certainly, May 1 comes and goes. Where will you be? And then certainly, I think nationally, we're seeing all of this wait list stuff happen. So tell us, what do you all think? Pull out and I see yours back on the shelf, Amanda. I see your crystal ball back there. Pull that out for us and tell us, where are we going to be come May 1? And then certainly what's going to happen with the wait list.
Jody, maybe I should go first, only because, and I'm going first because I think Georgia State truly is the outlier here. We are not a May 1 school. We do not have a May 1 deposit deadline. In fact, we very deliberately have set our deposit deadlines past UGAs, past techs, past some of the other institutions that we compete for, because as much as it pains me to say, we do lose students to both of these great institutions as well as SCAD. And so we very deliberately have set up our process to be later because they do waitlist students and we do feel some of the effects of that. I'm nervous. We're way ahead in applications, we're way ahead in admits, but we're down in orientation deposits right now. We're down in confirmations in some categories that were making me a little bit uneasy. Our final application deadline is approaching. That's where also we're an outlier with many of the schools here. We're April 15th. So that's coming up for us. We are and have already set a record for applications, but it still puts me in an uneasy position, not knowing what's going to happen with some of the decisions that these fine schools make about their wait lists and what they're going to do, because it does have an impact on us. And we're also unique in the sense that I have both bachelor's and associate's degrees students that I'm responsible for. Associates nationally down, enrollments are down more than 10%. So I'm also nervous there as well. And while we're trending ahead right now on that side of the house, I'm just not sure where we're going to end up over the next couple of months, but so far so good on that side. And hopefully we continue to see students interested in getting that 2-year degree. And we're also moving a lot more to online too. We've got 12 online programs coming on board in the fall semester for bachelor's degree seeking candidates. We're adding a few more graduate and associate degree programs as well too. So we're trying to play nationally in that landscape as well. And so there's lots of things to be excited about, but also lots of things to be nervous about as well.
Okay, Scott, let me just tell you, as you were saying that, I started feeling that right in my stomach. It's like, ooh, I'm getting nervous too. So for real, Amanda, we need you to get that crystal ball and pull that out and share with us. What do you see? What are you envisioning is going to happen?
Sure. So full disclosure, if there's any crystal ball on that bookshelf, it would be a baby toy, and I don't know that I'd trust it. So, but it is interesting times. And I will say, using the University of Georgia specifically, we saw significant application growth this year, right? With the addition of Common App and being test optional. And we don't see a significant increase in how many students we're looking to enroll in the fall. So what that meant for us is really playing it fairly conservatively, but using that wait list as we're talking about in that conversation. So from our end, we're not entirely sure how students are going to out, right? We've got and we have kind of a general idea of what we think we may see, but add a new application type plus add a pandemic to it and conversations about the economy and what that means for students. And we really just don't know. So at this point, we're watching deposits very closely, and we are working with hopes that we can release our wait list fairly early in the summer, but also prepared that last year we released our wait list right at the end of June, beginning of July, and we may be in a similar spot this year. So, but for the fall, we are expecting, let me find all the wood in my office and cross all the fingers and all the toes, but we're expecting to see students on campus and get close to the new normal. So Rick, I won't call it the old normal, but the next normal, if you will, as we're bringing students back to campus.
Right. And so I will tell you, Amanda, I do wish there was a crystal ball there. So Scott already gave you that. You didn't, I don't think you really helped anybody feel better, because it's life in the middle of a pandemic. This is, as we talk about the new normal, this is just real on so many fronts. And I think you're confronting it on your side, and then certainly on the counselor side. We're all sort of living through this, certainly together. So, oh my gosh, you all, I'm having such a great time, but this time is going by so fast. Okay, so back to the Q&A. So we have a great counselor who's asked this wonderful question, really more about, again, back to how the evaluation process changed and really dealing with those differences of schools recognizing it's a pandemic. So moving away from grades to P's for passing, I's for incomplete. How did you navigate that? And certainly saw that beginning second semester last March through this year. What even did that look like? Where there are no grades and we're just going to give P's for passing to everyone?
Alex, do you want to take that?
Sure. So for us, as long as students satisfied their graduation requirements within their high school environments, we really worked with them. And we really worked very closely with our counselors and the counselors from the applicant pool that we received. So we're pretty holistic pre-pandemic. So it was really just making sure that they were satisfying their graduation requirements and moving forward and just trying to make it as easy as possible.
Great. And Scott, I'm going to come to you with this next question. And I think this is a very real one, where a counselor is sharing that students, because again, it's a pandemic, y'all, Corona is still here. Students are a little bit hesitant about living on campus during a pandemic. So how has housing changed for you? And again, pull out another crystal ball for us. What are you envisioning is going to be happening going into the fall with housing?
Yeah, so we took a lot of precautions this year to try to create as safe of an environment as we possibly could for students that were still interested in living on campus. But our occupancy rate was dictated by the students, meaning they told us we didn't have to lower our density, even though we had plans to do so in the pandemic. We ended up about just under 50% full for this past year. During the pandemic. So we were, I think, about 48% of students decided that they were going to stay on campus. We had to limit guests and do all those things to keep students safe. We had to create isolation and quarantine space for students that tested positive or exposed to the virus in some way, shape, or form. We were very fortunate. Our positivity rate for our students this year was very low. They took this pandemic very seriously. And did a really good job of keeping themselves as safe as they possibly could. And for the students that ended up contracting the virus, we had places for them. We had isolation and quarantine spaces available to us. And in terms of the future, we have a lot of students that are excited about wanting to come back and live on campus this next fall semester. Our freshman housing deposits are up. So figure it out. We're down in confirmations, we're down in orientation, but we're up in freshman housing deposits at this point. So we're planning for as normal, whatever normal is going to be for this fall. Right now, about 80% of our classes are planned to be face-to-face for the fall semester. At this point, unless the pandemic takes a turn and CDC social distancing requirements change, we are trying to plan for as much as normal as we possibly can. And that's what our president is asking us to do. That's what our VP for enrollment management is asking us to do. And so far, that's where the numbers are trending for us to come back to a sense of normalcy. Obviously, with any CDC restrictions that will still be in place, we'll follow those.
Great. And so now back to the counselor chat. And so one of our questions comes to us asking that could each of you share some highlights, little tidbits about your institutions that as a counselor can help a counselor to see, okay, who would this be a good fit for? What would this, which student of mine in my caseload, who do I really need to be talking to about SCAD? Who do I need to be talking to about Georgia Tech? So just like, again, sort of like I asked you up front about your fun facts about how you spent pandemic, tell us some fun facts about your institutions. Okay.
I'll jump in. So, I think for Georgia Tech is an interesting place. I mean, it really is. And Midtown Atlanta just is blowing up, and it's wild to see this cityscape changing by the month. And one thing that is undeniable is that the kind of innovation ecosystem is coming to Atlanta. Google has now signed here, Microsoft is now signed here, BlackRock is now here, NCR. And that is because of Georgia Tech, period. The fact is that these companies, multinational companies, are coming here because of the talent, professors and students of Georgia Tech. All those CEOs are on record as saying that. And so, the bottom line is that the kid walking through your hall who is a question asker, is who you should be pointing to Georgia Tech. These are the kids who like to put their fingers on problems, but don't just complain. If they are just complaining or identifying problems, I'm sure there's a good school for them, not Georgia Tech. We want the students that thrive here are those who put their finger on the problem, understand it, and then are trying to actually bring a resolution and a solution to that. So they are the kids that probably why you to death with asking you questions about all kinds of stuff. But at the end of that, they're going to be looking for friends and looking for resources, whether that be human resources or online resources, to actually figure out the problem. And man, I'll tell you, it's a powerful place. I did not go here. I do work here, but I'm honestly speaking more so as just kind of a citizen of Georgia to say our state and frankly our country is fortunate to have Georgia Tech because we are solving big problems and doing important work that is benefiting the human condition. And that is just the way it is. And it's really cool to be proud and to be part of.
All right, Georgia Tech going on and not even just talking Atlanta, the world. Georgia Tech solving problems for the world. All right, who wants to follow that? Who's got more great facts to tell us about their wonderful institutions? Alex, I see a smile there. Tell us more about SCAD.
Absolutely. I definitely want to echo Rick and the wonderful Midtown Atlanta area. It's just booming. And he brought up the keyword innovation. And I think SCAD is right there beside Georgia Tech in that initiative. When you're looking at your caseload, if you have students who are creative and are asking questions and who are design oriented, we would love to have them at our campus. When you think about a school like SCAD, yes, we are an art school, but we're so design heavy as well. And one great thing about SCAD is you can come into our community undeclared. We encourage students to keep an open mind coming in through our doors. We do have over 100 different programs of study right now. Our most popular majors are animation, film and television, illustration, But we have some heavy hitters in terms of the business of beauty and fragrance. We have user experience, a program that we actually created in collaboration with Google. So there's a lot going on. We are very, very proud of our alumni. We actually have a 99% employment rate after graduation, with 91% employed in a creative field. So if you have those students who are creative and they want to bring their passion into their profession, we are absolutely the best place for them.
Wonderful. I'm going to round this out. We're going to go to Georgia State, and then we're going to expand our Atlanta area. And Amanda in Athens will bring us home. Scott, tell us what's all those wonderful things about Georgia State.
Yeah, like SCAD in many ways, we're a comprehensive university. We offer lots of programs, a wide variety of programs. Georgia State's DNA is very much rooted in Atlanta. So the opportunities that students gain, Rick kind of hit on this with the innovation and all the things that are going on that can help enhance a student's education. A student can take advantage while they are at Georgia State University. So whether you're a biology major or you're interested in politics, you're interested in healthcare, you're interested in film, we have the Creative Media Industries Institute, where we've invested a lot of money in helping students that want to go to that next level in film, that want to go to that next level in game design and so on. They have that ability to do that here. We've got a lot of great production companies and companies that are working, gaming companies. I mean, it's huge. And, you know, we're glad to be a part of that and feel like we are nicely situated in the city to give those students that opportunity, no matter what their major, no matter what their program is, get them exposed very early on. We always love to say, kind of rubbing elbows with CEOs. You walk out of our door and you've got, you know, lots of, you know, multinational companies, non-for-profits all right around us. And available and looking for students to do internships, to take advantage of really great opportunities to grow their skill set outside of the classroom. And I think that's one of the real major advantages of Georgia State being in the city.
Hey, Jody, before Amanda goes, on Future You podcast a couple of weeks ago, they interviewed Mark Becker, the president of Georgia State. And it is a great interview if people get a chance to listen to it. My wife and I both graduated from Georgia State, so we're a little bit biased, but it's impressive, man. It is, and it's so great to have Georgia State just doing so many great things and being such a thought leader in higher ed.
Thanks for that plug, Rick.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. And Amanda, tell us all those wonderful things about UGA.
Sure, yeah. So I'll leave y'all with, I think, 3 things that make us stand out. And then I've got a great resource that I'll drop in the chat for you too. So the 3 things that I think make UGA stand out. Number 1 is our location in Athens. So we're going to be a little bit different in the sense that Athens is far enough away from Atlanta to have its own culture and funky hipster creative vibe, but close enough to the city that is a student, if they want to venture in, they can. And that funky creative vibe really sets the stage for what the university has to offer. So it is steps from our residence hall doors, and students are really connected in the community in ways that make a meaningful difference. So I definitely want to highlight that. The second thing I want to talk about is our Rick and Shelby, y'all totally beat me to putting in my resources. So it looks like Georgia Tech has one too. So the second thing that I want to chat about is our commitment to experiential learning. So at the University of Georgia, all students are required to have some type of experiential learning before they graduate. And that's going to be the hands-on learning that takes what they learn in the classroom and applies it to real life. And students will do that through social causes and getting connected in the community, through research experiences, internship experiences, and study abroad experiences. So a lot of really great opportunities for students to experience what they're learning. And when they graduate, be able to say, like, I have been doing this. Then the third thing that I think differentiates us in some really interesting ways are our Double Dogs programs. And those are programs that offer students the opportunity to pursue an undergraduate and a graduate degree in 5 years. So while 4+1 programs are not unusual, the sheer number of Double Dogs programs that we offer is pretty astounding. We have over 200 different programs for students to choose from, and students can stay in their same discipline, like doing an undergrad in public relations and a graduate degree in new and emerging media, or they can completely change it up and do something like an undergraduate degree in engineering and a master's in business administration. So the idea is that students can really take advantage of the fact that they're bringing AP, IB, or dual enrollment classes to campus and graduate in 4 or 5 years with both an undergraduate degree and a master's degree. So I think those are our key pieces that we offer. And I will drop in our chat the resource that I mentioned.
Wonderful. Well, I just want to thank all of our panelists for spending this time with us this afternoon and just this wealth of information. So I know all of my counselor friends out there, we are all so grateful for this time. And I see our friend Jennifer, the facilitator, is back. So thank you so much for this fabulous afternoon. And it's been wonderful learning so many great things. Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you, Jody.
Everybody.
I agree. This has been an awesome panel. I want to make sure that we do make sure everyone on the panel who would like to drop information in the chat does so. I want to give all of our attendees a chance to copy those links and get those email addresses. So just know we're not gonna hit that end button right now. So I want to give everyone a moment to do so. But I would like to echo everyone else's. I'll try to go real slow through this for all of y'all. So I'd just like to echo, this has been an amazing panel. Such great information has been shared. I even picked up a few things as a higher ed professional that I'm taking away and a podcast to listen to. So thank you so much for all of your wisdom, not just about your specific schools, but I think to help all of our counselors help their students and their families navigate this higher education landscape in the time of COVID and beyond that too, as we go to that next normal. I like that phrase. I'm taking that home. I think that was from Amanda. So we are reaching the end of that time together. Again, please grab that chat info. And I have just a few reminders while you all are sharing and grabbing that information. When you do close out your window, you will be directed to a very short 4-question survey, and we'd appreciate any feedback that you could provide. Also, this is just one of many different sessions that are being hosted as a part of the programming for the Atlantic Consortium Virtual College Fair. We hope that you're signing up for other sessions. We hope that you are excited to learn more about great schools, great programs. Also, in about a week's time, you'll find this session's recording, so you can watch it again, share it with your colleagues, and get also being able to watch all the recordings for the other sessions as well. You can find all of that at that same website where you registered, scribescan.com/Atlanta. And again, I would like to thank Jody for doing an incredible job hosting. This was such a fun and informative panel. And thank you to everyone who was sharing information and everyone who took the time out to learn and attend today. We greatly appreciate it and wish you all the best of luck in this year with your seniors and with your rising students to come. So thank you again, Jody, panelists, and all of our counselors for all the hard work you do for your families and your schools and communities every single day. It was just fantastic, and have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.